All right. Welcome back, everyone. Super happy to see you all. We're here now with Sheryl Green. Just give me 1 second, sorry. There we go. We're here now with Sheryl Green. We're super excited to have you here today, Sheryl. Sheryl is going to be talking about a really important concept, and that is burnout within the nonprofit space. And she is an absolute expert in it. She herself has gone through it. So I'm going to hand it over to her, let her tell her story, and just share the pertinent information that we absolutely all need to be hearing today. So thank you for taking the time today, Sheryl, and welcome.
Awesome. Heidi, thank you so much for having me. I realize everybody's doing other things. If it's possible for you to come on screen, I would love to see your faces. This is going to go a lot better if we can interact. But if you're doing something else, I totally understand. Just listen as you can. All right, I am going to jump in here and share screen. And we are going to hope that all technology works. Okay, let's move that. Let's move that. All right. Can you see that? Heidi, does that look okay?
Yes, that looks fine.
Thank you. All right. Welcome, everybody. My name is Sheryl Green. And again, this is Bubble Baths Won't Save You, Protecting Your Mental Health in a Caring Profession. I'm going to give you a little bit of background on who I am before I learn about who you are, and before we dive into boundary goodness. Okay, so back in 2008, I moved to Las Vegas because of a pretty horrific divorce, and went through a clinical depression. My stepmom came home to find me curled up on the bathroom floor in the fetal position, hysterical crying. Didn't really care if I ever got up. And she held out her hand, pulled me off the floor, and gave me the best advice that anybody could ever get. She said, "Go help someone else." And I did. I went out and I started volunteering with animal rescues. And truthfully, I credit that process and that purpose with getting me out of the depression. Okay, so that's 2008. In 2012, I start working for a nonprofit that serves individuals with severe mental illness. This is not the right home for me. Okay, I am working with people with psychosis, with schizophrenia, multiple personalities. It's just not a healthy environment for me, mostly because of the other employees rather than the clients. But it's just not working out well. But I'm doing my job. I'm helping as much as I can. And in 2014, I'm in Toastmasters during this time. And if you're at all familiar with Toastmasters, in order to get to the highest level, it's a Distinguished Toastmaster Award, you have to do a high performance leadership project. The only rules are you have to lead people and it has to be legal. And truthfully, I'm not even sure about the legal part. Okay. But my friend had just lost her service dog, Pele, to cancer. And I wanted to do something special to support him and to honor him. So I went up to my friend Kelly and I said, "Hey, Kelly, if I was going to raise some money for a rescue, who would it be?" And she said, "Well, my friend just started this new rescue. I definitely give it to them." I said, "Cool." And I didn't talk to her again for like 3 more months because I was afraid of spoiling the surprise. So I reached out to the executive director of this rescue and I said, "Hey, I'm going to put on an event for you. It can be, you can be as involved as you want with it, or I can just hand you a check at the end, whatever works for you." She got involved. We planned it together. We raised $5,000 for a brand new rescue. And at the end of it, she said, "My parents and I own this other company, and we see what you can do. And we know you're dying a slow, painful death at this mental health place. We're going to rearrange the company, restructure it to hire you." Awesome. And they did. Unfortunately, that company didn't have the money to pay my salary. So even though I was working for the animal rescue, the money was coming from this other company and they couldn't do it. So I got laid off and I continued to work. Okay. 30 plus hours a week. I served on the board. In fact, the day after I got laid off was our biggest event of the year. I had been putting it on for, quite a while. And I probably worked a 16-hour day right after I got laid off. Okay. 2016, I start my content writing business, but I'm still working 20 to 30 hours a week for the animal rescue. And then COVID hits. And much like many other business owners, overnight, my clients all disappear. And I go full time at the animal rescue. Now I'm working about 50 to 60 hours a week. And then my clients start to come back. I'm not making enough at the rescue to keep a roof over my head and keep kibble in the dog's bowl. So I start taking my clients back. I start taking on new clients. I'm taking care of my parents who are getting older at this point and needing more support from me, all while working 50 to 60 hours per week at the rescue. I can't stop crying. I've drank more in 1 week than probably in the last 6 years, and I'm not a drinker. And I'm short with absolutely everyone. And one day I'm driving down the road. It's about dusk, and I start seeing the headlights of the oncoming cars. And I have this split-second thought that if I just cross over the median, this will all be over in a second. It scares the crap out of me. Thankfully, it snapped me out of it. I pulled over to the side of the road. I calmed myself down. I realized that if something happened to me, I wouldn't be there for my parents. I wouldn't be there for the animals. I wouldn't be there for my own pets. And something had to give. And what had to give was the rescue. This is 2 days after that oncoming headlight moment. I was broken. That's my little dog there. I couldn't function. I spent the next almost 2 months either laying on the couch doing jigsaw puzzles at my table, or just binging Netflix and trying to surround myself with supportive people. The reason that I'm sharing all of this is because I want you to understand why I'm here in front of you today. And it's because I'm a cautionary tale. I didn't know what boundaries were. I didn't know what burnout was. And I reached a tipping point where there's no coming back. Will I ever work in animal rescue again? Truthfully, probably not. I don't think I can handle it. However, what I can do is I can be this guide and I can be this support system for people that are in the nonprofit space, people like you, so that the causes, they don't lose any more good employees, good volunteers. Okay. All right. So let's get into today's workshop. We're going to go through what are boundaries? Who are you and why are you here? What do unhealthy boundaries look like? What's going to happen if unhealthy boundaries continue? And then we'll get into the healthy stuff and I'll give you some tools to make your lives a little bit easier. Okay. All right. So here's where I need a little bit of participation. What are boundaries? And if you can put this in the chat, I would appreciate it. Saying no. Yeah. Thank you, Heidi. What else? What are boundaries? Protection. Yep, I love that. Protecting your energy. Limits that set you with others. Awesome. Excuse me, limits that you set with others. Yeah, that makes more sense. Perfect. All right. Boundaries equal guide. I love that. Taking time for self-care. Yep. A personal budget. Ooh, I like that one. Okay. A personal budget. Lynn, that's awesome. I might steal that. Gonna be honest. All right. So boundaries, everything. I decide where I spend my social coin. Ooh, yep, totally stealing that. I'll give you credit, I promise. Boundaries are how we allow people to treat us. Boundaries with phone and email responses within a certain time period. Yep, we're going to get to that. How we allow people to treat us, and by extension, our things. Okay. And I like to look at this as a house or property lines. So imagine whether you live in a house, an apartment, a condo, a farm, whatever, wherever you happen to live. There's something that surrounds your property. You've either got a fence, you've got gates, you've got um, uh, whatever it is, differences in grass, whatever that may be, walls, doors. There is a clear delineation between where someone else's property stops and your property begins. And it would be really bizarre and not okay if you came home and your neighbors were like throwing a party in your backyard, right? That would be pretty unacceptable. It would be very weird if you came home and your friend who you had not invited over was sitting at your dinner table eating. It would be weird if your neighbor kept bringing their dog over to poop on your front lawn, okay? Because we know exactly where their space stops and our space starts. Okay, so if we look at boundaries in that way, it's a lot easier to kind of digest what they are. All right, there are different types of boundaries. There's 6 different types, but I'm actually gonna argue that there's a 7th, and I'll share that after this. So the first one is material. It's your stuff. It's your clothing, your car, your money. And just to give you an example from my childhood of material boundaries being completely stepped over and not respected. My parents got divorced when I was about 4 years old, and my mom and I moved in with my grandmother and grandfather with her parents. And grandfather was absolutely amazing, warm, loving, fantastic. Grandma was not. We'll just leave it at that. And one day I'm sitting on the couch and she comes into our apartment, walks past me, goes into the bathroom, takes my deodorant off the counter and uses it. Now, we're not talking about spray deodorant. We're talking about like the roll-on, gel deodorants. So first of all, ew. But I said to her, again, I had no boundaries back then. I couldn't speak up for myself, but I did ask the question, why are you using my deodorant? And her response, because I can. Okay. Clear boundary violation that I didn't understand back then. Okay. So material is the first one. Mental boundaries. If you want to see an example of mental boundaries being disrespected, go on Facebook, go on any social media. You are entitled to your ideas. You're entitled to your thoughts. You're entitled to express them. And we often see people just responding with, you're wrong and you're an idiot. Okay. That's just basically stepping all over mental boundaries. Kind of the same thing with emotional. Okay. Emotional boundaries are how you feel. Okay. You are entitled to how you feel. You are entitled to express how you feel. And you are not responsible for how anyone else feels. And that's a challenging thing to understand, and vice versa. They are not responsible for you. Okay. So those emotional boundaries, and are you able to express how you're feeling? Sexual boundaries, pretty obvious. How in a sexual fashion are you willing to be touched? And in a non-sexual fashion, physical boundaries. I have a cousin who, when she tries to get your attention, she just hits you. And she keeps hitting you even after you've given her your attention. It's absolutely maddening, and you constantly have to remind her to keep her hands to herself. I've also got a friend who, he's a huge germaphobe, does not like to shake hands. You cannot hug him. He's happy to fist bump or give the elbow bump, but his physical boundary is he doesn't want to be touched. Okay. All right. I left time for last because it is the one that I would say most people in nonprofit, and I'm going to make a bunch of sweeping generalizations during this workshop today. And if you don't agree, that is completely okay. Some things may resonate, some things may not. I just ask that you just flow with it. And if you don't like it, just disregard that. Okay. But time is a huge issue for people in nonprofits. Okay. And I know my situation, and a lot of people that I know, you feel as if you are not entitled to your own time. Okay. If you're not, if you don't have something on the calendar, it means that anybody can take up that time. Anybody can put a demand on your time, when really what it should be is deciding where I spend my social coin. I love that. It's the personal budgeting of, this is the time that I'm going to spend on myself. Maybe it's, getting together with family or friends. Maybe it's just laying on the couch and binge watching Netflix. Maybe it's taking a bubble bath, which I'm not against, by the way. You are entitled to spend your time the way that you want to, and there will always be demands on your time. So you need to protect those. Okay. All right. Before we move on, I just want to share, the other day something happened and I realized that I might have actually found a seventh one, and that would be family. And I don't know if that fits under one of these other. However, I had someone at my house, and I didn't find out until after the fact, or I would have done something, but he need my dog at the table. Need my dog to get him off. And had he said something, I would have moved the dog, who was just had his head on his lap. And I realized that one of the boundaries is how we allow people to treat our family. Again, that's an extension of us. So if you've ever gone mama bear on someone because they've threatened your human or your fur children, that's another boundary that you're setting. Okay. So just throwing that out there, may have uncovered a seventh one. Okay, let's get to you. I would love to know, what is your cause? What is the population you serve? And what is your role within the organization? I'd love to know who I'm talking to right now. Awkward silence. There we go. All right, Heidi, thank you. Teaching nonprofits to help them gain the knowledge they need to grow. Yep. And you and I chatted, and you had a similar story to mine. So I love that this is the direction you've gone in, so that you can still help people. All right, new operations manager of Parent Professional Advocacy League. Awesome. Thank you, Lynn. Event coordinator, community liaison, Kids on the Move. We serve children with developmental delays or disabilities and their families in Utah. Awesome. Main streets and business districts. Danita, what is that? You may already be typing and adding more, but. Okay, so we've got, looks like kids mostly so far. Okay, Chamber of Commerce, got it. Okay, thank you. All right, obviously I'm going to use a lot of animal examples throughout this, because that's where my experience is. But I'm actually, my husband and I are about to start working with a human foster program out here. So I will have some of those stories next time. All right, founder, president of Hope Restored, mission of bringing peace, ending violence for every man, woman, and child, abuse prevention. Love that. Awesome. Very cool. Okay. All right. So, and you know what, just if you get a chance, just add in there how long you've been either with your nonprofit or in the nonprofit field. Okay. Okay. So, let me guess. Okay. You got into the nonprofit sector because of the extreme amounts of money that were going to come flying your way. You just wanted to bring in the big bucks, right? Is that why everybody got into the nonprofit sector? 28 years, 3 years, virtual assistant. Okay. Oh, Liz just joined us from the Soul Project. Awesome. Hi, Liz. So much money. There you go. All right. I remember years ago, my cousin, hi Elizabeth. My cousin is she runs an organization that's in like 6 different states, and does like the fundraising and things for them. But I remember her talking one day and saying that she worked for a nonprofit. She wasn't a nonprofit. Okay. And I thought that was, I didn't understand it at the time until I actually started working for the rescue and realized how little I was actually bringing home. Okay. All right. Donna, founding 10 years ago, always helping people, worked 2021. Yep. After being laid off from my W-2 job. Awesome. And Susan or Suzanne, I apologize if I'm saying that wrong. I want to create an NFP for veterans. Awesome. Perfect. Okay. So, I'm going to say it's safe to say that you did not go into the nonprofit sector to make big bucks. Okay. But you probably went in for one of these reasons. Okay. You're passionate about your cause, community minded. Maybe you're considered a do-gooder. Maybe you're selfless, a tree hugger, or whatever the equivalent is in your industry and in your cause. Or maybe, and this one's a little bit less pleasant, you're dealing with some codependency issues. Okay. And this was part of where I found myself. And been dealing with codependency for years. If you're not familiar with that term, I like to use, I forget the band that said it, but the line is, I want you to want me, I need you to need me. Okay, and I've always seen that as the definition of codependency, because it feels good to be wanted and to be needed. It feels good to make a difference. It feels good to feel like you're a hero. Okay. And nonprofit kind of seems like a somewhat healthy, not completely, but a somewhat healthy place to have that codependency. Okay. But if you had a specific reason for getting into your organization or for supporting your cause, put it in the chat. I'd love to see. Now, I know sometimes where the foster group that I spoke to last week, she moved over from, the social service side of it and the psychology side of it, and because she saw a need. She saw this big gaping hole in the, not the industry, but in that situation, and she started the nonprofit to fill that gap. Okay, so sometimes we're just seeing these problems and we care. We care about others. We care about making the world a better place. All right. Unfortunately, I saw a need for more attainable resources. Awesome. Thank you. And okay. All right, I'll come back to that. Unfortunately, there's some aggravating circumstances here, okay, that that really can lead into boundary troubles. Volunteered with nonprofits for more than 30 years. This was a good match. Awesome. So there's 3 things that pretty much every nonprofit has in common. Okay. One, they're underfunded. Nonprofits are asked to basically make miracles. They're without the proper budget, and yet somehow we do. Okay, you do make miracles. Okay, the next one is understaffed. How many hats can you possibly wear? When I was at the rescue, I was my official title was director of communications. However, I was also community outreach. I was the face of the organization with the media. I did fundraising. I did event planning. I did a little bit of volunteer training. Boy, what else? Oh, graphic design, which is so not my ninja skill. Putting out all the newsletters and all the social media, all the things. So we're understaffed. We're doing the job of, 10 different people. And unfortunately, also undertrained. Okay. When you think about it, a lot of people have gone into nonprofits, they've gone into these organizations purely because they care, not because they're actually qualified for what they're doing. Now, I'm not saying you don't end up qualified. Okay, it's trial by fire. You learn skills you never knew you had. You build these amazing portfolios of skills. But a lot of people come into this without the training. Okay, we see this a lot with executive directors. Okay, they're passionate. They love the cause. They love the population they support. They don't necessarily have business experience or leadership experience. Okay, and the same with everybody else on the team. All right, and then you throw in emotional connection. And this all gets a lot more difficult. Okay, if you were working for a for-profit, let's say you worked for a retail store or something like that, and they told you, we're going to need you to work extra hours, we're not going to be able to pay you, I'm going to need you to do like 5 other people's jobs, and I know you don't actually know how to do this, but it's time that you do. Okay, you would leave, hopefully, because nobody's going to put up with that from a for-profit. Okay. However, you're different. You're emotionally connected to the population you serve. You're doing this from your heart. You're doing this because you care. And it's wonderful. And it's dangerous. All right. And I'm going to go out and say nonprofits are the perfect breeding ground for unhealthy boundaries. The perfect breeding ground for unhealthy boundaries. You take amazing people who want to do so much good in the world, and you give them not enough money, not enough staff, not enough training, and this strong emotional connection, and it's disaster. Okay. All right. Let me just check in. I know some of you have been adding stuff in here. Abuse victim to abuse survivor to thriver. Love that. Helping empower others, break the cycle of violence and heal. We also offer harm prevention programs for children. Yeah, you know what? I didn't even put that in on my slides. I hadn't even thought of that. But yeah, you are the ultimate paying it forward. So Donna, thank you for sharing that. That's amazing. Okay, Suzanne, I interviewed some NFPs. They complain about the same things. They are forced to care about the clients they serve while their lives fall apart. They are tired and drained. Yes. Please share this with them. All right, because I'm gonna drop some bombs here today, and I hope that it's gonna help you, and I hope that it's gonna help the people you come in contact with. Because like I said, cautionary tale, and I want to be here to support nonprofits so that these important causes don't lose any more good people. Okay. All right. Heidi, I left every nonprofit job because of burnout from lack of boundaries. I'm probably going to borrow that as a as a little start off testimonial, Heidi. That's awesome. Thank you. Not that it's awesome, but it's exactly what I'm saying. So, all right. Do you have boundary issues? If any of these that I'm gonna go through, if any of these resonate with you, please put it in the chat. If there's other things you can think of, please put it in there. All right. Boundary issues, diagnosing it. Let's, if you say yes when you want to say no, this is a huge one. These are the people pleasers. Okay. You say yes when you want to say no. And how do you feel afterwards? Gross. You feel resentful. You feel angry. It's difficult because it's this automatic response, and we're going to get in a little bit on how to break up that automatic response. Shelly, welcome. We are just talking about whether or not you have boundary issues, so join in on the chat. Do you feel guilty when you say no? Okay, you finally are able to stand up for yourself, and now you go home feeling like you've ruined the world. Okay. Do you give too much to feel useful or worthwhile? Okay. Yes, everybody is, not everybody, but most people are doing this for a good reason because they want to help. But again, it feels, oh, sorry, Shelly. Oh, you are S Stutz. Okay, well, hello. I'm glad I know your name now. So, if you're giving too much because it brings you value and makes you feel worthwhile, that's a boundary issue. Okay. Allowing yourself to be interrupted. And I know this doesn't really sound like a huge problem, but whether you're speaking and you allow yourself to be interrupted, okay, you're not standing up for yourself, or whether you're working, and this happens a lot in nonprofits, is you have your day scheduled, you're on track, you know exactly what you need to get done, and your day gets hijacked. Okay, you allow yourself to be interrupted by an emergency. And I get it, animal rescue, there's emergencies all the time. Okay, but when you keep allowing yourself to be interrupted, you don't get your work done. Everyone suffers, including you, and it's a boundary issue. Okay, keeping quiet so as not to disturb the peace. I actually just had someone ask me, I have a weekly newsletter that goes out called Boundary Bites. And I had somebody say that, you know, she tries to speak up with her boss, but the boss doesn't seem to want her feedback. So she just stays quiet. Okay. Are you keeping quiet so you don't disturb the peace? All right. And the last one, your needs come second to the cause. Okay. And I don't know if this resonates with you as much as it does with me. I'll tell you, a couple of years ago, a game show came to town, and they were looking for participants. It was some kind of word game, which I'm pretty good at. And they were looking for teams of 4, and the winners would get $10,000. And I found out about this, and one of my friends came to me and said, hey, you should totally create a team and go on this show. The animal rescue could really use the money. And yes, the animal rescue really could. But as soon as that thought settled, the next one came, and that one was, wait a second, so could I. I was at this point where I was not making enough from the rescue, that I had to take on all of these extra clients just to make ends meet. I was pulling money from savings. I was borrowing money. I was, doing the bill pay game where you skip certain bills, certain months. But in my head, I was like, well, it's for the animals. I have to take care of the animals, even if I am drowning. Okay. So your needs come second to the cause. All right. If any of that resonates, throw that in the chat. And let's talk about what's going to happen if that continues. Okay. Heidi said yes. Yeah. It's challenging and it's painful, and it doesn't go away if you don't do anything about it. Okay. I call this a boundary breakdown. When you're feeling overwhelmed all the time, sure, we all have those moments in our life where there's just a lot going on. But that shouldn't be lasting for more than a couple of weeks. Okay. If you have this constant state of overwhelm, you're in danger. Okay. You're overscheduled. Okay. You can't even find 10 minutes in your day to sit down and breathe or connect with nature or, watch TV or whatever it is, journal. You're just scheduled to the hilt. Okay. You're fatigued. Okay. If you are just constantly exhausted, it's getting harder and harder to move, to function. All right. If you're depressed, okay, that is a hard one. It's a hard one to accept, and it's a hard one for some to recognize. It's kind of like this slippery slope heading downward. And psychologists describe depression as anger turned inwards. Okay, so when you've gotten to that resentment, which is the next one, and you start resenting yourself for all the things that you have said yes to. You're crying constantly. As I said, that's where I was. Granted, I cry a lot to begin with anyway. However, I didn't stop crying for about 2 months. Couldn't get a single sentence out without losing it. Right before I took my hiatus, I was decorating Christmas trees for a contest for the nonprofit, and I cried through the entire time. Thankfully, I had a friend with me who was very good at handling me, but just couldn't stop. And snapping at people. If your temper is really, really short and you're just constantly snapping, it's a challenge. Okay. And what does that lead to? I hate to say it, but it leads to looking for a way out. Okay. So I want to get to you and to your colleagues before this happens. All right. So check in, and I hope we still have some people here. I really would love to see you, but have you ever felt overwhelmed? Okay. Oh, thank you, Elizabeth. I appreciate it. Like you're taking care of everyone but yourself, like you're wearing too many hats. Okay. Does that resonate with you? Is that something that you have experienced in your nonprofit work? I'm going to assume it is. Heck yes. Thank you, Danita. I'm actually feeling good about what I'm working on. Lynn, that's awesome. That's amazing. Okay, so I want to share this, and this is kind of a mindset shift that I know I had to go through, and the people I work with kind of have to accept this. There is a big difference between giving of yourself and giving up yourself. Okay. Giving of yourself is wonderful. It's amazing. It's good, and it's something that we want to continue. What we want to avoid is losing yourself in this process. Okay. Giving up your free time, giving up your mental health, giving up your commitments to family and friends. Okay. That's what we need to avoid. All right, so let's dive into the helpful stuff that's going to get you hopefully all feeling good about what you're working on. We're going to talk about 3 necessary boundaries for nonprofits. Okay. The first one is understanding your job description. And, it seems silly to have to say that because everybody should know what their job description is, right? You wouldn't join a for-profit company and then be like, yeah, just go do all the things. No, you have a title, you have a listing of your key responsibilities, of your role, of who you report to, how you interact, all the things. When you're a nonprofit, those things get a little fuzzy. I remember when we were growing, my executive director said, write your own description. Okay, I get it. She was busy, but that was probably not the best way to handle this. So take the time to sit down with your executive director, with your leadership team, whatever that may look like, and clearly understand and clearly outline. How about write your own performance review? I'm amazing. Everything I do is amazing. Yep, I have unfortunately heard that happen as well. When you get clear on your job description and your roles and your responsibilities, it gives you a filter through which to judge things that come your way. Okay. When I was community outreach, communications, event planning, fundraising, social media, all the things, if something extra came, like, oh, well, hey, we've got this. Sure, just throw it onto my plate. No problem. And I did not help this situation. I am not putting all of this blame on the organization. I did not help this. Okay. Because I was like, yeah, sure, just put it on my plate. Okay. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So that's the first thing, is sit down and have that conversation. And that way, things that are outside of your role, outside of your responsibilities, those need to go to someone else. Okay. All right. The next one is to manage your time. And I know this sounds so simple, and I'm preaching to the choir, but at the same time, none of us do this. Okay. When I started full time, I said, please don't make me punch a time clock. I hate time clocks. And my ED said, yeah, no problem. I'm sure you're going to be working way more hours than that anyway. And that should have been my first indication. Okay. But have no idea about boundaries. So I ended up working 60 plus hours a week. Okay. And I remember at one point, I finally said, I need help. I can't do all of this. And she said, okay, let's hire someone part-time. So I brought on one of my friends, my friend Jamie. She's a huge animal lover. She's a Reiki person. She's fantastic. And we're sitting there one day and I said, hey, Jamie, I need you to do whatever it was, X, Y, and Z. And Jamie said, got it, no problem. This was on a Thursday. But do you mind if I work on it on Monday? I'm out of hours for the week. I'm mildly embarrassed to share the stream of obscenities that went through my mind. I kept them from coming out of my mouth. But who are you? What is wrong with you? This is for the animals. How selfish can you be? I mean, it was bad. The thoughts that I had, and I can share this story because I've since interviewed her for my book, and she knows that I had these thoughts. What I didn't realize at the time was, well, she just had healthy boundaries and I didn't recognize them. Okay. So manage your time. When you are not working, and we're going to talk about that in 1 second, you are not working. Okay. Because the problem with all of this is you can do all the things, but when you get burned out, you're not going to be there to do any of the things. Okay. All right. And that last one is protect your personal life. There's three aspects to this that I want to dive into. The first one, again, is your time. Okay. When you are not working, you are not working. Okay. And I have my phone in my drawer because I'm trying not to get bothered during this. And it's actually right where I say it should be. If you can see, this is an iPhone. I'm sure that Galaxy and all the other brands have it as well. I just don't know how to do it. But do not disturb is your best friend. And if you scroll down, sorry, I'm not used to using a screen here. So, okay, that's not going to work. If you scroll down from the top, you are going to get a screen that says do not disturb. It's got a little moon on it, and you're going to click that. And you can set it up for as long as you want. Okay. But do not disturb is like my secret weapon, because before I knew this, I was taking phone calls at 6 o'clock in the morning. I was taking phone calls at 11 o'clock at night. I was taking phone calls on dates. I was single at the time. I did not have a do not disturb function for myself. Okay. So utilize that. Doesn't mean you can't check it. Okay. But if you're not working, you're not taking calls. And again, I get it. There's emergency situations all the time. Trade off with someone else that when you are off, they are on call, and vice versa. Give yourself that time to shut down. The next one is your money. Often when a nonprofit is struggling, yes, love that mantra. When I'm not working, I am not working. Yes. Often when a nonprofit is struggling, we reach into our own pockets and we throw money into it. Okay, well, a dog needs to be rescued. A veteran needs a place to stay overnight, or they need, money to get into their apartments, or the kids need food. Whatever population you serve, there are needs. And when the coffers are running low in the nonprofits, here you have this challenge where you're reaching into your own pocket. Okay. I'm not saying you can't donate to whatever cause you care about. Okay. Not saying that at all. However, sit down with your spouse, your partner, sit down by yourself if you're, just you in the household, and do a budget, not just your time, which is important, but do a budget of your finances as well. Okay. And say like, hey, you know what? At the end of the month, I have X amount of money left over that I could donate. Okay. And if you don't have that money left over, don't donate it. Okay. Because now you're putting yourself in danger. You're putting your financial wellness, your well-being in danger. Okay. So your time and your money you need to protect. All right. That third one is going to be the people around you. And let's be honest, when we work in a nonprofit space, our friends, our family, they're probably suffering a little bit. Okay, we're probably blowing off some commitments to them. We're not showing up at the kids' baseball game. We're not going out for the friend's birthday because an emergency came up. Okay. The thing is, your family, your friends, they love you. They also deserve to matter. Okay. They deserve for you to keep those commitments, and they'll be patient until they're not. Okay. So when I say protect your personal life, protect your social connections, protect your support system, because when everything falls apart and you end up almost driving into oncoming traffic, you're going to need that support system. Okay, those people are going to be there for you. They're going to pick you up off the floor. They're going to drive you to the therapist's office. Don't lose those connections. Okay. All right. Any questions before I continue? If you have any questions, put it in the chat, or honestly, if you'd like to come on, I'd love to see a face. If you have a question, ask it, please. Working from home has made setting boundaries even more important to manage. Oh my goodness. Yes. Yes, for sure. That do not disturb is going to come in really handy for you. That personal boundary. Okay. So sometimes the boundaries are what we have to set with ourselves. That personal boundary of not checking your email on your smartphone the second you open your eyes and right before you go to bed. Okay. Super, super important. Okay. Again, when you're working, you're working. When you're not, because it is way too easy to say, oh, let me just jump into my office, to my computer and, do a quick post or do a quick whatever it is. It's very easy. And again, those commitments you made to your family and to yourself to set time away, that's going to be up for grabs there. Okay. So yes, working from home, there's a whole other set, but that do not disturb is going to help. Even, when you are working, letting your family know. Okay. Hey, when mom's door is closed, you don't come in. I always talk about boundaries for writers because I work with a lot of writers. And I have a friend who she's got 3 kids at home, one of which is special needs. And you'd think, how could she ever get anything done? But she's written countless novels, she writes horror. She's been nominated for Bram Stoker Awards, and I think won a few. And she has bunny ears. And she says to her kids, when mommy has the bunny ears on, that is her time. Unless you are bleeding or on fire, do not bother me. Okay, so get a pair of bunny ears. If your family is interrupting while you are focused on work, get a pair of bunny ears or the equivalent. Okay. All right. Lynn, I was a contractor virtual assistant for 2 years before this. So that trained me to protect my boundaries and my time. Love it. Awesome. And Lynn, if you have any suggestions for people, I always believe that the best answers are in the room. So please, I throw that in the chat. Let's discuss and let's see if that can help other people. Okay. Just so you know, I have the chat on a second screen, so that's why I keep looking over here. Google Calendar to set reminders for myself, and that helps keep me on track on all sorts of projects and keep track of my time. Yes. When I started dating my husband, we sat down with my calendar and he actually had me block out my morning 6 to 9 a.m. 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. is Cheryl's best morning. And then 12 to 1 is rejuvenation time. And 5 and after is Cheryl time. Okay, there is no discussion on that. Again, I'm not working in the nonprofit fields anymore, and there's a lot less emergencies. However, block out that time, do the recurring blocks so that from now until eternity, my calendar is blocked off from 6 to 9, 12 to 1, and 5 and up. Okay. And granted, sometimes that has to change a little bit. Sometimes I have to take a meeting during noon, but I know that 12 to 1 spot, that rejuvenation just gets moved. Okay. So yeah, love the idea of the calendar. That is going to be super helpful for you. Calendar, Google Calendar with do not disturb, and you are winning. Okay. All right. Let's get on. And if anybody has anything else, feel free to put it in the chat. All right, here's your next mindset shift. It is time to go from selfless to selfish. Okay. It's okay to care about a cause or a population and make sure your needs are met first. Okay, and if I were you, I would be taking a picture of this, screenshotting it, tattooing it on your arm, whatever that may be for you. This is a big shift for a lot of people in the caregiving space, in the nonprofit space. It's okay to care about a cause or a population and make sure your needs are met first. Okay. And that is essential because when your cup is empty, you have nothing to give anybody else. Okay. So, as much as I hate it, and I used to say, no, it only counts on airplanes. The whole putting on your oxygen mask before you help others, it really is true. Okay. Make sure your needs are met, and then you can go save the world. Okay. How are we going to do this? I have a term called yes vomit. I'm sorry if that offends anybody on this call. I know I was on a podcast once and I said yes vomit and she went, ugh, and then proceeded to write a blog about how that was disgusting, but she ultimately agreed with it. So what is yes vomit? Okay, if you're a people pleaser like me, you have agreed to do something before the person has finished asking you. Would you mind? Sure, absolutely. I can help you. Yep, I can do that. Yeah. Oh, do you need me to wash your car as well? Yeah. Okay. That yes is flying out of our mouths. There is no connection between the brain and the mouth. It just comes flying out. This is dangerous. Okay. We agree to all sorts of things that we shouldn't agree to, and that we are later going to regret, be resentful of the person who made a demand on our time, energy, whatever. And we're going to be angry with ourselves, and that leads to depression and all the other things. Okay. So we want to stop the yes vomit. And let me be clear. Okay. I am not telling you to never say yes to anything again. I'm not telling you to not serve your populations. I'm not telling you not to work your butts off for the organizations you work for. I wouldn't dream of saying that, because I still believe, even after everything I've been through, that we are here to serve others. That is why we are on this planet, is to take care of others. Okay. I am not telling you not to say yes. What I want you to do is say yes intentionally. When you do agree to do something, I want it to be because you have thought it through, and we're going to get to that in a minute, and because you want to do it. Okay, because you can do it. All right, so we're going to stop the yes vomit. And we're going to do that by strengthening our pec muscles. And I believe those are those, but but I'm not into anatomy. So we're going to strengthen our pec muscles. This is a three-part a tool. Okay. First, we're going to pause. Then we're going to evaluate. And then we're going to communicate. Okay. All right. Let's dive into what those mean. Pausing, pretty obvious. We want to buy ourselves some time. Okay, that is the first step to stopping that yes vomit, is creating space between the question and the response. Pausing can look like, I have to check my calendar. I'll get back to you by 5 p.m. today. It can look like, let me talk to my spouse, kids, executive director, leadership team, whatever that is. I'll touch base with you by Friday. Okay. That sounds like a great opportunity. Let me get back to you tomorrow. Okay. Because people are going to make these demands on our time. In the nonprofit world, you may have businesses or community groups that want to partner with you. Okay, they want to collaborate with you. And they're not all something that you need to say yes to. Okay. Your ED, your leadership may want you to take on another project, on another role or responsibility. And you may not be able to, truthfully. So pausing gives you time to evaluate, which we'll get to next. What I do want to share about this is if you look at this right column over here, and I don't know if the mouse actually is highlighting things, but that right column, I'll let you know by 5 p.m. today. I'll touch base with you Friday. Oh, thank you, Heidi. Let me get back to you tomorrow. Okay. If you notice, we're giving the person an expectation. We're setting an expectation of you will have your answer, whether it's a yes or a no, by this time. That is important, and it's a show of respect, okay? Because they have asked you something, they have put the ball in your court, okay? They need to know that if you don't do whatever it is they're asking you to do, they have the time to find someone who can. Okay, so always let them know, hey, I'm gonna need some time to any of those left columns or whatever your reason for pausing is. And I will let you know by this time. Okay, so just a show of respect, and it makes it easier because then you can say like, hey, I have to think about this by this certain date, and then get them the information, their answer. Okay, next we're going to evaluate. Okay, I call this the clash question, and there's really 3 parts to this question. Okay, do you want to or have to do something? Okay, want to is usually pretty easy. The have to is a little bit more difficult, especially when it comes to nonprofits. And I'm going to say something right now, and I apologize, and it's going to hurt, and it's something that I never truly accepted, but we all have to hear it. You can't save everyone. You just can't. And if you try to, you're not going to be able to save anyone. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're evaluating whether or not you're doing something. You may think you have to, but ultimately you don't, and it will hinder your ability to do other things. Okay. So do I want to or have to? The next thing is, do I have the resources? Everything we do, every demand on our being takes up resources. Either it takes time, it takes money, or it takes emotional or mental bandwidth. Okay. And often we go rushing into a yes, I can help you, a yes, I can do this, without actually evaluating, well, wait a second, do I have the time to do this? Do I have the money to do this? Or is my cup so empty that I couldn't possibly take on one more thing? Okay. If you don't have the resources to do something, you have to say no. Okay. And the third one is kind of an extension of that is, am I willing to give up other things? Okay, because time, definitely finite. Finances, yes, you can always make more money, but for the most part, we're working with a set budget. Emotional and mental, there's only so much you can handle. Okay, you can be the most well-adjusted human being in the world, but there is only so much you can handle. And when you agree to do something, you are taking away from something else. So when you agree to work late, when you agree to take on another project, when you agree to put on another event or to work an event you weren't supposed to be working, what are you giving up? Is it time with your kids or your spouse? Is it time relaxing? Okay. You're giving something up. So if you're not willing to free up that space, the answer is no. Okay, so the reason for this diagram is because if the answer to all three of these is not yes, you cannot say yes to whatever that demand is, whatever that opportunity is. Okay. All right. And I am just doing some math. Heidi, am I done at 12:30 or 12:40? Okay. And if anybody,
For a
go
quick
ahead.
second, I was like, what are you talking about? And I forgot you were in a completely different time zone. And I'm like, it's 3:40 our time. So then 12:40 your time?
Yes, got it.
Okay.
Okay.
That's why I
Thank
was
you.
like, wait a minute, what are you talking about?
Thank you. No, I want to leave some time for questions. And yeah, I did the math 3 times and I kept Googling it to make sure that I actually showed up on time. So
Perfect. Thank you.
okay. So if anybody is interested in getting this diagram, I can send that to you. I'm going to give you a QR code to scan later. And while it's not what gets sent automatically, I will send it to you. We've got a small enough group that I can do that and happily will share. Okay. So again, we're in the evaluation phase. All right. This is our intentional decision making. Okay. All right. And the last part of this is going to be communicate. And while I take my drink, are there actually, before it, let me go back. Are there any questions about this? Did I not explain any part of it clearly enough that, because I want you to be able to actually follow this and do this, and whether it's like instantaneous or whether you actually take, 24 hours to run through it, like I want you to be able to do this. So if there are any questions, go ahead and put that in there. Okay. Hearing no questions, I shall move on. Oh, wait, made sense. Perfect. Thank you, Heidi. Yay, thank you, Lynn. Okay, give it 2 more seconds. Awesome. Okay. All right. So now we're moving on to communicate. Okay. There are 3 possible answers. Okay. Yes. You have run through the clash question in your head and you are ready to say yay. Okay. You can help, you can work, you can lend money, whatever that may be, your answer is yes. Awesome. Move forward. Okay. Excuse me, I have the hiccups now. The other side of that is no. Okay. You've gone through those and one of them was a no. You don't have the time, the energy, the money. You don't want to. Okay. Let's not forget that that's actually an option. Sometimes we just don't want to do something and that's all right. Okay. Or we don't want to give something else up. Okay. There's so many reasons why the answer could be no, and that's okay. Okay. And again, when we give that no, it frees them up to go find someone else to meet their needs. Okay. All right. The third one, or the second one here, is a little bit different. If you've ever done improv or watched improv, they have a technique called yes and. Okay. It keeps a scene moving forward. Okay. Because if they say no, if the second person to speak disagrees, the scene shuts down. For example, we are on a boat and the second person goes, no, we are not. What do you do with that? You're dead on a boat. Okay. However, we are on a boat. Yes, and we don't have any paddles. Okay. Now the scene moves forward. People don't necessarily react well to no. I'm not saying you shouldn't say it, but something shuts down in their brain when you say no, and like we kind of just stop listening. Okay. But maybe you do want to help, just not in the full way or at the time or whatever it is that they want you. Okay. That they're making this demand on your time. So yes, and is yes, I want to collaborate with you. And our first 6 months of the year is very difficult to schedule. So let's look at the third quarter. Okay. Yes, I can donate to this cause that I care about. And I'm only budgeted for $100 this month. So that's how I can help. Okay. That yes and is going to say, I am willing to help you. I am willing to support you in this way. And it's going to be under my conditions. Okay. And that's something important that we often don't think of, is that just because somebody has asked something of us doesn't mean that it has to be a blanket yes. It doesn't mean that we have to serve them in whatever way to the full extent that they want to be served. Okay. Yes. And that puts the ball back in their court, because now the asker, if you will, can say, well, yeah, that'll do it. Thank you. And I will accept your help. Or, you know what? That's not really going to cut it. So I'm going to have to go find someone else. Okay. So yes, no, yes, and. Okay. Any questions? We'll give it 1 second, and I'm actually going to move to the next screen while you type in there if you've got any questions, because this is, thank you, Lynn. This is a cheat sheet that I created for you. Okay. Often we don't know how to phrase things. Okay, we're not looking forward to a conversation. We're dreading it because we don't know how to say something. We don't know how to say no. Okay, we don't know how to take that pause. So I created a download, a cheat sheet on how to say no. Okay, you can use the QR code, or you can also go to youhadmeatno.com. Okay, and that will get you to the download. And if you do that, thank you, Elizabeth. If you do that and just shoot me an email, my information's coming up, but it's Sheryl@SherylGreenSpeaks.com, and just ask me for that. What do you call it? The clash question. Okay, and I'll send that out to you as well, so you've got it to reference. Okay, all right. I am going to change screens. Okay, and I just want to share a little bit about like where this came from. In August of last year, I released a book called You Had Me at No: How Setting Healthy Boundaries Helps Banish Burnout, Repair Relationships, and Save Your Sanity. Okay, and I did that because after I had started this I'd backed away from the rescue. I'd overhauled my life. And 6 months later, I found myself slipping into old patterns. And a friend had asked me to serve on a board of a nonprofit. And I was like, oh, I don't really want to. I was planning a wedding at that point. My parents, again, getting older, needing me more. All the reasons I should not have been volunteering at this moment. And I ignored all of them because I didn't want to let my friend down. And I'm all about service. And I made it about 2 weeks before I ended up speaking to a mentor and having this like big realization that honestly, I was letting the organization down because I couldn't serve in the way they deserved. Okay. And I was sitting on an airplane, and I literally just outlined a book in my head. I was like, you know what? I need to learn boundaries, and then I need to teach them. Okay. And then a few weeks after I released it, I was being interviewed on a podcast, and the guy said, "What's next?" And I went, I'm going to make a coloring book. So I did. So that's out there if you're interested. Okay. All right. I want to hear key takeaways. We've got a couple of minutes before I wrap up with a story. What did you get from this? And if you have any questions, feel free to put that there as well. And if you want to come on again, Would love to see your smiling faces. Okay. I'm going to take a drink.
Well, I can tell you, for myself, I made a comment in there. I've left every nonprofit job because of burnout. Um, when I first hit it, I didn't even know how to recognize it. And I honestly got to the point where I threw up a white flag and I said, is this it? Is this how life is going to be now? Now that I've learned how to identify some of the symptoms that come with it, I'm able to identify it earlier on to be able
Yeah.
to start saying, okay, I went too far. So some of the things that I think are really helpful, like the questions you pose to ask yourself, that for me will be very helpful because I tend to just keep going until I see those burnout signs and then I back off, where I'd really like to get to a point where maybe I don't even see those signs.
Yes.
And I think asking those questions will help me keep some additional boundaries, because I am definitely the yeser and I know I need to say no more.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's the point, is to avoid the burnout.
Yeah.
It's not just to recognize it, because if you're there, like, yeah, you can deal with it, but like, how do we avoid that burnout?
Mhm.
And it's challenging because you want to help, you want to give. It's baked into who we are. So yeah, let's avoid that. Lynn said host has stopped the video, so she can't
Huh.
start her video. Can we bring
Okay.
her on?
Yeah.
Hey,
Hi,
Lynn,
Lynn.
don't forget to unmute yourself.
Can't do
It's
all the
also
work for you.
complicated. My God. Well, this is a great presentation, and I guess I didn't understand just how healthy my boundaries are until I saw it outlined for me today. I use a lot of these tools and tricks, and I think that my advice to people who are just getting used to having their own boundaries and enforcing them is that, like anything, it takes practice, and saying no um, can really feel difficult unless you can back it up and feel confident in what you're saying. But saying it once out loud will help you be able to say it again. So, um, and I coach people in singing, and performing, and one of the things that I tell them is to say it out loud so that your brain hears it and understands that you can say that out loud. Because if the first time you're going to say no to someone is when you're face to face with them, that's not going to work. Your brain is already resisting, and you'll stumble on your words, and it won't be smooth, and it'll be ugly. And instead, what you can do is practice that in a mirror, say it to yourself, run through how that conversation could go. Well, what if they say this? What if they say that? Even have someone role play it if it's going to be a very difficult conversation. But then to be able to just say, this is it. Nope, that's my answer. That's my final answer. And really, there's nothing you can say that will change my mind. I've decided, and that's it. And yeah. And it's interesting. Sometimes I find that I will have a difficult time with someone, and I don't recognize that they're exercising their boundaries, even though I feel like I'm good at it. I sometimes feel like, oh, that's funny. I can't seem to get anywhere with this person, and it's like, because they have boundaries, and that's okay.
It's funny because when you do recognize that, you're like, oh, that's what that was. But no, I actually recommend having a boundary buddy.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't have time to talk about it in this, but like I really went into that in the book, that it's so helpful to have somebody that you can, they can be your scapegoat. They are your, I have to go check with, X, Y, and Z. Two, they
Mm-hmm.
can be your sounding board. Because suddenly
Yes.
when you're saying something to someone else, you're like, oh yeah, no, that doesn't sound good. And they can practice with you. So yeah, great advice, Lynn. Thank you. And I'm so happy to hear that you have good boundaries, because the nonprofit world needs more of that. So go and spread.
Great.
Danita, did you have something to share? And
Yeah,
yay, I can see faces.
I was just going to build off of exactly what Lynn said, which is the more aware I become of my own self in this area, it also helps me see when somebody else that I'm interacting with is
Yes.
exercising their boundaries, showing me where their boundaries are. I'm more receptive to it. I understand that a little bit more and more respective of that. So it's a highway that runs both ways.
Right?
Yes.
Mhm.
And that's a really
Yeah.
important distinction to make, is you can't expect other people to respect your boundaries if you don't respect theirs. So yeah, absolutely huge. All right. Oh, hold on. Being aware of my own self also helps me see when someone else is showing. Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. Okay. I want to give you one more offer, and then I'm going to just finish up here real quick. It's been an honor to speak to you ladies today. Truly, I appreciate you being here. You've got big organizations behind you and a lot of people that probably don't have great boundaries. So I did put together a slightly longer workshop for your teams. That QR code will lead you to a landing page that'll give you more information. So hey, share it with your leadership team, please. I would love to come out and be able to save more good people. Okay.
Great.
All right. So I'm going to stop share and finish up. Okay. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
All right. So I'm going to go back in time for a minute here. When I was a little kid, I was obsessed with Michael Jackson. Okay. Truly obsessed. I mean, I had the white glove. I memorized all of the song lyrics. And when my dad and my stepmom got married, I moonwalked down the aisle. Obsessed. Okay. All right. So I'm 7 years old, and my mom, who's a travel agent, takes me to England. We go to London. She always got these really cool trips. It was when travel agents actually like got things. And we're sitting in the lobby of the Grosvenor House, which is like this, 17-star hotel. And here's little 7-year-old me. I'm exhausted. I am like, the jet lag. I can barely keep my eyes open. And I just need a good night's sleep. And the maitre d' comes over to us and says something he was not supposed to say in front of me. He goes to my mom and says, "Madam, your Michael Jackson tickets will be waiting at will call." And I go from barely keeping my eyes open to bouncing around the hotel lobby like a gummy bear on crack. Hey, I am like, okay, I do not sleep that night, in case anybody is wondering. And in the next evening, we go to Wembley Stadium. And we go to will call and we pick up our tickets, and they are GA, general admission. And we go up to the security guard, and we're all proud and excited. And we stop in front of this gigantic security guard who's, I'm 7, so he's probably the size of my husband. But I'm literally like, he's terrifyingly large. And he looks at me, and he looks at the ticket, and he looks back at me, and he goes, "Nope."
Oh,
And my mom goes mama bear.
no.
The vein is popping out of her head. She's ready to
Oh, no.
jump on the turnstile. It's about to get, like, this stuff's going down. And she goes, "What do you mean, no?" And the guy says, "Well, I am not putting someone her size in general admission. So you guys can sit in the front row of seats."
Wow. Wow.
Okay. That show
Yeah.
was amazing, literally amazing.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson came on and did 2 encores.
Wow.
Wow.
And when he came out to do the second encore, the crowd was so excited that they surged forward towards the stage.
Mm.
7 people were crushed to death.
Oh my gosh.
Ugh.
And every time I tell this story, I send a little like prayer, like little good vibes to the security
Yeah.
guard, because truthfully, he's the reason that I'm alive today.
Mm-hmm.
And he's never going to know what I've accomplished in this world and who I'm going to impact.
Yeah.
And you are probably never going to know all of the lives you impact. However, please keep yourself healthy so that you're there to change the world. Thank you all so much.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
This
you,
was great.
Cheryl. I don't even
Well
know how
done.
to follow that up. I don't think you can.
Just say a prayer for that security guard. I hope you had a
Right,
really good
right.
day.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Cheryl. We really, really appreciate it. 3:50, guys. We're back. One more session to go. We're doing grant writing with me. So you get to see me for another hour and a half. And then we will have a Q&A at the end of the day if anybody wants to jump on and get any additional questions answered before we get started for a second day. I don't know about you guys, but this day's been great so far. So I will see you all soon. And thank you again, Cheryl, for this wonderful segment.
Thank you. Take care,
Thank
ladies.
you.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye.